Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is the Surge Effect, and this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. In today's episode of the Surge Effect, we're going to be talking about Mark Carney, or over in England, they used to call him Mark Carnage. Well, we're going to show you some videos about Mark Carney, and you can make up your own mind whether you like the guy, don't like the guy, or whatever, but I'm just going to show you some stuff maybe you have not seen on mainstream media because they're keeping this guy pretty hush-hush here in Canada. So anyway, before we get started, I always talk about two of my sponsors. Number one is Love My Legs, Owen Sound, Grey Bruce. Click on the link below. Head on over to their website and check out all the ladies' leggings that they have to offer. Number two is Heshirtssheshirts Plus. Head on over to their website. Check out all the clothing they have to offer. They are more than just another t-shirt company. We call them Heshirtssheshirts Plus. The plus being the laser items that they have as well. Click on their link. Check them out today. Also like to talk about the Amazon links. Click on those ones below. New deals for the day, stuff like that. Check them out. Without further ado, let's get into today's podcast. All right, so I'm just going to play this first little video here for you. This is a little compilation of items that were put together. Pierre Poilievre is kind of narrating the background. Here we go.
Carbon tax con job. They collect the tax for 7 years, pass a law to raise it 300% by 2030, and then, a few weeks before the election, they hide it from sight, all to try and win a fourth Liberal term in power. The full carbon tax, which lets them keep the tax and raise the tax, remains in place today, even after Mark Carney trying to hide the tax just a few days ago. That law would raise the tax yearly until it hits 61 cents a litre in 2030. All the Liberals will have to do is flip the on switch to put the tax back on gas, heat, farmers, and others. If they really planned to get rid of the tax, they would have recalled Parliament and repealed the carbon tax law for real. They haven't. If the Liberals were to win an election, God forbid, Justin Trudeau's economic advisor turned Prime Minister Mark Carney would simply bring back the carbon tax, in fact, what he calls a shadow carbon tax, this time without a rebate.
We need to use effectively a shadow carbon price.
Mark Carney admits that his future carbon tax would make cars more expensive.
So there's a carbon price on steel. To the extent to which that's paid, yes, that does show up in the cost, for example, of an automobile. Mm-hmm. If you look at a $25,000 or less car, the cost, if you replaced all the steel and it became green steel, so no carbon steel, which is an extreme version of what we're talking about here, it's less than $200 additional price. So it's something, but it's not much.
Right, just $200. Remember when the Liberals told us that their earlier carbon tax wouldn't cost you much? And Carney's shadow carbon tax will be much bigger than the Trudeau tax.
So far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
So here's the trick. Hide the tax before the election, raise it afterwards. I told you he was sneaky, but also scary. Just as Donald Trump is hitting Canadian industry with a massive tariff, Carney is saying he will impose a massive carbon tax on Canadian businesses, above and beyond the industrial carbon tax that Trudeau has already brought in. The combination of Trump's tariffs and Carney's carbon tax would drive steel, aluminum, and many other industries out of Canada altogether. Workers would lose wages, consumers would pay more. Money and jobs would leave Canada, making us more dependent on the Americans, just like Trump wants. It reminds us of Carney's decision to move his company headquarters out of Canada just 6 days after Trump threatened tariffs on Canada to steal our jobs. Carney's also trying to trick you again by saying that taxing steel will not cost anyone because apparently nobody uses steel.
Then secondly, what we're going to do is make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens?
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? I mean, not as much we used to.
Carney's new and bigger tax on Canadian lumber mills, steel mills, factories, aluminum plants will force them to leave for the United States. And here we are, facing a massive tariff threat from President Trump, who wants to take our jobs and businesses, and Mark Carney wants to help him do it. Carney's carbon tax will have Trump grinning from ear to ear. But I won't let them. Today I am announcing that a common-sense conservative government will repeal the entire carbon tax law, including the tax on Canadian businesses and industries. I will axe the tax for everyone, for real, for good. We will take the carbon tax off your gas, heat, food, and everything else. But we will also axe the tax on Canadian steel, aluminum, natural gas, food production, concrete, and all other industries. Instead, conservatives will use technology, not taxes, to protect our environment. While liberals tax businesses for using energy, conservatives will cut taxes and boost incentives for those who bring down emissions. Carrot, not stick. By expanding eligibility of the clean technology and clean manufacturing investment tax credits, we will reward heavy industries who make products with lower emissions than the world average. For example, Canada's industry produces 2 tons of emissions to produce 1 ton of aluminum, while 1 ton of Chinese aluminum produces 12 tons of emissions, more than 6 times as much. So every time a Canadian business produces aluminum, it displaces many tons of foreign emissions. Taxing our companies will drive jobs out and global emissions up. Cutting taxes on clean production here will bring home jobs and production and bring global emissions down. We will do this to restore our industrial base and take back control of our economy from the Americans. It will be part of my Bring It Home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building. With lower taxes, we will unleash a massive boom and bring home paychecks and production from the U.S. and other countries. Our factories, mines, and mills will be buzzing with the work of welders, carpenters, pipe fitters, heavy machinery operators, and assembly line workers. They will be making more by making more. We will be a strong, self-reliant, sovereign nation, standing on our own feet and standing up to the Americans. We will restore Canada's promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street protected by solid borders and brave troops under a proud flag. Canada first. Let's bring it home.
Now, there is a nice thought, right? Canada first. Absolutely. I agree in that wholeheartedly. That's Economics 101, everybody. Economics 101. All right, so the other day, everyone saw this occur when Mark Carney did this. Yeah, he signed, supposedly signed off on the carbon tax, getting rid of it, just eliminating it, right? Well, don't fall for that nonsense. Don't fall for it, because here is Pierre Poilievre explaining in regards to that signage the other day.
I think that Mark Carney will abolish the carbon tax. Well, the truth is, he can't do that without recalling Parliament. This is the carbon tax law. It's in place today. Until Parliament is recalled, this carbon tax law will be the law of the land. What he might do is hide the carbon tax by telling CRA to stop collecting it for 2 months before the election. So let me ask you if you think this is a believable proposition. 100% of his ministers voted dozens of times not just to impose the carbon tax, but to raise it. Mr. Carney, his only public criticism of the Liberal carbon tax was that it was not high enough. They've had this tax now for over 7 years. The law that they still have in place would quadruple it to 61 cents a liter. And you believe that they're not going to bring it back 2 days after the election? Well, I think Mr. Carney has some land he might sell you in Florida, some swampland he might sell you in Florida if you believe that whopper. The reality is that Mr. Carney loves carbon taxes, and if you elect him, you will pay a brutal price. And he has also said he will be bringing in a shadow carbon tax targeting Canadian industry, and he has specifically singled out steel. There will be tens of thousands of steel, aluminum, cement, and other industrial jobs lost under Carney's carbon tax. The combination of Trump tariffs and Carney's carbon tax will destroy our industrial sector and make us hopelessly dependent on the Americans, all while profiting Mark Carney's personal investments in other countries, investments that he still knows he has, investments that, like the carbon tax, he just wants to hide. The good news is that common sense conservatives will axe the tax for real, for everyone, for good. We will make sure it never comes back. There is only one way to axe this tax, and it is to vote for the Canada First Conservatives.
There you go, Canada First once again. And if you don't believe in Canada First, if you don't believe in looking after your home base first or looking after your home first, then hey, by all means, feel free to hit my donation button on this channel and hey, drop me as much money as you possibly want to do, because hey, I can spend it no problem at all. If you don't want it for your own self and your own family, your own home, Canada First. That's what this is. Just like they say in the leadership in America are saying America first, it should always have been Canada first, always. So, of course, you're hearing a lot about the carbon tax, right? And you're hearing about, we watched Mark Carney, of course, sign it away the other day, right? And it's gone. It's gone now. Well, this is what Pierre Poilievre has wanted to do for quite some time. So listen to Stephen Guilbeault, who was the Green Deal czar for Trudeau. Listen to what he has to say in regards to the Pierre Poilievre wanting to get rid of it.
Serious about climate change? If you're not serious about climate change, like Pierre Poilievre, then of course you don't want to do anything you don't want to put measures to fight climate change, and you know the planet and Canada can go to hell in a handbasket. He doesn't care. But if you're serious about fighting climate change, this is not the only way, but the best way of doing it. It should be the number one tool in your toolbox of fighting climate change.
Wow, and his new boss, because don't forget, Mark Carney just basically hired 86% of the old cabinet to his cabinet. So basically, they're all the same shit, different pile. Stephen Guilbeault got a job in Quebec, looking after things in Quebec now. He's no longer the Green Deal czar. He's the Quebec, something in Quebec. So here's Mark Holland talking about getting rid of the carbon tax as well. Mark Holland packed her in, actually. He probably saw the writing on the wall and knew that the Liberals were ready to head out of Dodge, so he thought he better bail quick. So listen to what he has to say about Pierre Poilievre wanting to get rid of the carbon tax.
You can take a summer fun time vacation where you're locked in a car for 10 consecutive days, nonstop with no bathroom breaks, and the Conservatives have a plan for you to have that summertime fun. And the cost? Give up the future of the planet, right? Don't worry, kids, about climate change. Don't worry about taking action on the planet. Enjoy your 10 hours in the car and let the planet burn.
Pretty dramatic, eh? Let the planet burn. Probably got some lessons from Trudeau maybe there. But Mark Holland, yeah, he's gone. So that's what he had to say about the carbon tax. And there's, Mark Carney, the new coronated one, taking it away the other day. No, he didn't take it away the other day. He pretended to take it away the other day. So I'm going to show you another little video here of how the media pushed Mark Carney a little bit and what they had to say about it. Certain things about Mark Carney.
He's the biggest media manufactured candidate since Trudeau. And he's back in Canada after being in Europe for a decade, where he bragged about holding both UK and European passports.
Mark, you look like you were about to.
Yeah, it was a tell.
As a European, as a
European,
honorary
I am a
European,
actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh.
Irish citizen. Yeah. So there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
And he's getting the full celebrity treatment from our Canadian media, who need him re-elected to keep the taxpayer-funded gravy train rolling. But does Mark Carney deserve all his media adoration? For decades, Mark Carney has been living the high life as a self-described globalist elitist. When he moved to England, he was entitled to a taxpayer-funded housing allowance of $7,700 per week, which his wife Diana complained wasn't enough. And while he was advising Trudeau to raise your taxes and bring in record immigration, he was far removed from Canada's cost of living crisis, crime and drug crisis, record mass immigration, unaffordable homes, and overrun hospitals. From the executive offices of Goldman Sachs in Brookfield, Carney has been totally protected from the destructive policies he promotes, policies that help him and his rich, creepy friends. He's just another hypocritical media celebrity who doesn't care about working Canadians. Too busy flying on private jets and vacationing on yachts, while saying retired grandmas need to pay more to heat their homes. Too busy helping his company deforest the Amazon rainforest for profit, while telling single moms to pay more to fuel their cars. Too busy stuffing his company's money in overseas tax havens while pushing tax hikes on small businesses and family farms. Yet, Mark Carney is a media darling and celebrity. But he's not a leader, and not someone Canadians can afford.
Exactly. And I don't know if you caught it in that clip or not, but Mark Carney said about being European. Well, of course he is. He has a passport for Europe. So this literally happened in France because Mark Carney, the coronated one here with 86% of 140,000 votes, is now looking after 40 million people in Canada. This is what he had to say to Macron over in France. Just dropped. Check it out.
France and the whole of Europe works enthusiastically with Canada, the most European of non-European countries. The most European of non-European countries. The most European of non-European countries.
The hell does that mean? The most European of non-European countries. We're Canadian. Proud of it. Proud Canadians. We're not Europeans. The hell is he talking about? People should be all over this. It's ridiculous. Let me know what you think in the comments below. It's just ridiculous. And that literally just dropped. So here's another little clip from this young lady here doing a little expose on Mark Carney. I played this in a podcast the other day, but I'm going to play it again because it's worth mentioning because a lot of people probably don't realize what Mark Carney's all about. So this is about 3 minutes long, so enjoy this.
Mark Carney, the self-proclaimed outsider and the self-proclaimed best choice for the Liberal leader of Canada after Justin Trudeau resigns. It only took me 5 minutes to realize that this guy was more of an insider than the entire members list of the Bohemian Grove Secret Society. Yeah, the guy's been at Bilderberg meetings, like a true outsider, like you and me. We're outsiders. Of course, we're going to go to Bilderberg meetings. And if you're wondering why he's been filmed or, had pictures taken with Ghislaine Maxwell, according to the Toronto Sun, it's because his wife's sister went to the same high school as Ghislaine Maxwell. Totally believable for someone who's gone to the Bilderberg meetings. Anyway, what Mark Carney is basically an economic grim reaper. He is BlackRock's trustee for bankruptcy. His entire job is to go into countries, absolutely economically destroy them, and then have investment banks buy out all of the resources and labor while taking away your freedoms and rights under the Green New Deal. That was literally his idea. So let me just show you some of the things I found about Mark Carney, the outsider that everybody talks about. In 2008 crisis in Canada, what Mark Carney did is he loaded us up with so much debt that the moment the economy turned, the working class in Canada is now 75% working class, paid for it through interest rates so high they crippled and broke every middle class family with a mortgage. And then he moved to England and did the exact same to the English. And his name there is actually Mark Carnage. Even the former Liberal Party president Stephen LeDrew says that Carney is a wickedly dangerous man hoping to curtail individual freedom in order to achieve his view of what the world needs. He makes the WEF, the World Economic Forum, look like libertarians. He's also BlackRock's bankruptcy trustee. Isn't that weird how he's such an outsider? Lol. He's also leading a campaign for a green digital cryptocurrency to replace the US dollar, because that's totally normal. He's such an outsider that he's basically a member of the Group of 30. I mean, you might as well just be a part of the Committee of 300, and also the World Economic Forum, and he's attended Bilderberg meetings. He also wrote, if some companies and industries fail to adapt to this new anti-carbon world, they will fail to exist. So he's basically telling you that you have no choice. Not really surprising, considering he wrote a book called Values, Building a Better World for All, and where he says Western society is morally rotten and also requires rigid controls on personal freedoms. And I also came to find out that he's been advising Justin Trudeau in the background in 2020, and he is the reason why Canadians had their bank accounts frozen during the trucker protests. Let me show you. Mark Carney said this about the convoy. Those who are still helping to extend this occupation must be identified and punished to full force of the law. Drawing the line means choking off the money that financed this occupation. And he's not referring to financial organizations or companies disobeying his green rules, but the citizens who have the right to protest. Yeah. And what's also interesting is if you look into him, every job that he had, he was appointed to. There were multiple people in line for his job with a lot more experience than Mark Carney, and somehow he just got in. Because he's really good friends with people at Bilderberg groups and like other groups, you know, that kind of control everything in the world. So the guy is literally Justin Trudeau's handler. And because Justin Trudeau screwed up so much, he's now there to kind of finish Canada off. So if you guys really want to know who Mark Carney is, there you go. The outsider Mark Carney, aka the Grim Reaper for the economic destruction of Canada, and also the guy who's going to absolutely curtail and take away your freedoms in the name of the green environment initiatives.
So there you go in a nutshell. She did a hell of a job. I don't know what her name was. I would have gave her a shout out because that was phenomenal. The world needs to know this stuff. Canadians need to know this stuff. Canadians need to know this stuff. So here's another little clip here. Why would this guy, Carney, stand up for us? Why would he stand up for us? What's he shown us so far? How to avoid reporters, not answer questions, you know, being in a position of Canadians' power by less than 140,000 people, and we have 41 million people in this country. 41 million people. Watch.
Who's ready to stand up?
You were the vice chairman at Brookfield Asset Management prior to
the chair. I was the chair.
Sorry. In the fall, they moved their head office from Toronto to New York. Did you approve of that decision, and what does this say about your commitment to growing Canada's economy and betting on Canada? No.
There you go. Carney wins, we lose. That, in a nutshell, that video is basically saying about him moving his the company Brookfield to New York. Just, you know, why would he want to have it in Canada? So, tells you a lot about that individual, doesn't it? Here is a MP by the name of Michael Barrett, and he just talks a little bit about Carney, and this is very interesting to listen. It's too long, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll play a couple minutes or so.
Mark Carney, you've just become Prime Minister, and Canadians have one simple question. What are you hiding? You told Canadians you had no connection to Brookfield Asset Management, the massive investment firm with billions invested in sectors your government now controls. But a bombshell National Post report exposes the truth. Brookfield and your own team, quote, declined to clarify if the new Prime Minister still possesses any financial interest in Brookfield, end quote. So, were you lying then, or are you lying now? Here's what we know. You have already lied once about your involvement in moving the headquarters of Brookfield to the United States. You're entitled to carried interest payments, potentially worth tens of millions of dollars from Brookfield's investment funds. That's not a passive investment. That's a direct financial stake in the deals you made while you were at Brookfield. And now as Prime Minister, you have the power to shape policies that could make those investments even more valuable. That's a massive conflict of interest. You claim to have placed your assets in a blind trust, but let's be real. A blind trust doesn't erase the fact that you know these assets exist. You know their value, and you know exactly which policies could impact their profitability. And unlike stocks, these assets can't just be sold off. Canadians shouldn't have to wonder if their Prime Minister is making decisions for them or for his own wallet.
There you go. We should not be worrying about that. And trust goes a long way. And so far, all the stuff this guy's done has shown that I can't trust him. And just won't happen. But this guy here is also part of the World Economic Forum, Mark Carney, of course. And if you don't know what the World Economic Forum is, look into it. World Economic Forum, they're globalists. I'm not paying for globalists and voting for globalists because Trudeau was on the World Economic Forum, and so was Chrystia Freeland. We didn't vote for the globalists, right? You vote for people on your own soil. Because while this guy, Carney, while he was looking after Trudeau's stuff for the last 10 years, this is what's literally happened to the gross domestic product here in Canada for the last 10 years. Canada is 0.5. See at the very top? The bottom one is the United States. It's 20.7. This is the growth in percent. Canada, 0.5. And there's the other countries: Germany, Finland, Norway, United Kingdom, Austria, Australia, France, Japan, Sweden, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, Denmark, and the last one, of course, United States. Carney has, of course, been, looking after things with Trudeau for the last 10 years. So that's scary. Last clip I'm going to show you is a reporter asked Pierre Poilievre, basically what are his qualifications? Almost like a little mini interview for a job or something. Here's what Pierre has to say, and he says it off the cuff. He didn't read anything off a teleprompter, off a piece of paper. He says it off the cuff. This is impressive. This is going to be our next Prime Minister of Canada right here.
What economic and diplomatic experience do you have to go up against Donald Trump?
Oh, quite a lot, actually. So I was the Minister of Jobs and Housing in the Harper government, during which time housing cost half as much as it does today. I helped Mr. Harper cut the GST, cut income tax, cut business tax, and balance the budget. Over my time in Parliament, I've been scrutinizing and studying the books on the Public Accounts Committee, the Operations Committee, the Finance Committee. And if you want any proof that my economic ideas are the best, the Liberals are all trying to pretend that they're copying them right before the election. All the big economic questions of the last 5 years, Mark Carney has been wrong and exactly wrong, and I have been right. I said 5 years ago the money printing would cause inflation. He said deflation was on the horizon. I turned out to be right. I said the carbon tax would drive up food prices, and it did. Drove them up 37% faster in Canada than in the United States of America. I was the first parliamentarian to predict that we would have the inflation crisis, while Carney, Freeland, Trudeau, and others were saying that we would not.
True.
I was the first one to be, along with my Conservative colleagues, fighting for pipelines. Pipelines now everyone claims that they support after opposing them for the last 10 years. So if Mr. Carney is so smart on economics, how is it that he was so wrong for so long on all of the economic issues? One thing I don't have experience with is taking jobs out of Canada, moving them to the United States, selling out our resource workers to support Middle Eastern resource workers. That's not the kind of experience that I have, but that's not the kind of experience that we want.
Canada first, folks. Canada first. All right, that's today's podcast. I just wanted to throw it out there. A lot of people don't know anything about Mark Carney, and a lot of people don't know about Pierre Poilievre. So I tried to throw in a few videos there of both, obviously. And like I said, there's so many questions that should be answered, but he doesn't let reporters ask him questions. And Carney is done that the whole time before that he was coronated by less than 140,000 people in Canada. So that's it. Thanks for watching today's podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe my podcast. It's always appreciated when you share it because it helps with the algorithm on YouTube. You have to get those videos out there. People need to see them. And spread the news. Start spreading the news, because if Mark Carney wins, Canadians lose. All us Canadians, we lose. It's just that simple. We want to win. It's all about Canada. It's all about Canada first. And if you have any problems with what's going right or what's going wrong with this country, you talk to the management that's running this country. It's that simple. Don't blame the kid next door because he stole your homework or the dog that ate it. No, It's the managers that are looking after this country. They wanted the job, and they done a shit job, and that's what's happened to our country. It's just that simple. Anyway, thanks again for listening, folks, and until next time, everybody, cheers.